Hello, good evening. How are you, everyone? Hello.
Hello, madam. Good
Right.
evening.
Okay. Good evening, everyone of you. Uh, Last week, your class got cancelled because I was having sore eyes. Right. Then, can you give me a kind of a briefing on what we did last time, the week before? Can you actually give me a briefing? What did we discuss? Can't remember. A
About the
question,
questioning method.
questioning as a strategy we did, no? And what else? Questioning as a strategy, brainstorming as a strategy.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Brainstorming as a strategy, questioning as a strategy. Right. Okay. So today, I will actually get you to have a look at uh, uh, Bloom's taxonomy of writing learning outcomes. Bloom's taxonomy of writing learning outcomes. So you can actually start taking down notes then and there. Though I'm sharing the materials with you after the class, then it helps you to actually see the flow and what we are discussing and all that. Okay. So this is a part of lesson planning. So I will actually talk to you. Yeah.
You told to present that role play and
Right. I ask you to present what?
me role play, madam.
Right. Okay. Then the other one is storytelling.
Yeah.
Right. We'll do the presentations first. It's really good, nice of you to actually give me a reminder. So you can start. Is that Rukaya?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you can start, Rukaya.
Good evening, all. Today we are going to see the role play as a classroom technique. This is an active learning process
Yeah.
and a teaching strategy that we can use in the classroom.
Mhm.
And also, it increases the interest and the engagement of the student in the particular subject or the lesson that we are teaching. And also, here we give the participants the opportunity to practice for the role play, where it is in a safe environment and a non-threatening environment, and it is permissible for them to make mistakes.
Mm,
There will be no punishment.
mm,
They can practice through that, and it is effectively used in the classroom because it motivates the children, and also it keeps student engaged in the subject throughout the lesson,
mm.
and also it enhances the teaching strategy. It provides the real world scenario to help the student to learn the real scene, what happens,
Yeah.
and also to see the world view. It helps them, and also it provides the opportunity for the critical observation of the peers. They learn
Mm-hmm.
from observing them.
Mm.
And also to develop the role play, we can give at the we can introduce small non-graded play in the start,
Yeah.
and also we can instruct the purpose of for what we are doing this, and also
Mm.
we should instruct them that the role play is to communicate the message about the topic,
Mm.
and we have to give time for them.
Yeah.
And we can use this from kindergarten to high school.
Mm.
uh, if we look example of the subject where we can use role play, for an
Mm.
example in science, if we take science, we can use the energy use and the wastage to
Mm.
teach that subject. We can use this role play method, how the wastage is happening, like a drama we can
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. To
And
teach any subject.
yeah, in maths also to teach the value of the money and the balance, how they get from the shop. We can make a scenario like a storekeeping,
Mm.
like that. That's all. I hope.
Yeah, that's really good, Rukaya. Actually, it's not only the subject knowledge, but the soft skills are also developed, no? They have to work, interact with others. They have to actually communicate, and they have to use non-verbal communication skills. So it's actually the holistic development facilitated. So that is a very good explanation by Rukaya about role play. I think others also got an idea the advantages of using role play as a teaching strategy. Thank you very much, Rukaya. It's good job and keep it
Thank
up.
you, ma'am. Thank you,
Yeah,
ma'am.
good. Who is going to talk about storytelling as a strategy?
Good evening, ma'am.
Yes, dear.
Ma'am, I took the topic storytelling.
Mhm.
You said that you will be sharing the notes on storytelling and role play, but we
Uh-huh.
didn't get. I myself took few notes, ma'am.
All
Shall I
right. Yeah, that is
convey it?
okay. Yeah, definitely.
Okay,
Yes, I'll
ma'am.
be sending notes later on then. Sorry for it because I was
Okay,
sick
okay,
and
ma'am.
I couldn't.
It's okay, ma'am.
Right.
Okay, ma'am. It's okay. Yes. Today we are going to see storytelling as a teaching method. Really, storytelling as a teaching method involves conveying educational content through narratives, anecdotes, or fictional stories. It engages learners by making the material relatable, memorable, and entertaining, especially.
Yeah.
By weaving educational concept into stories, it helps the student to understand the complex ideas,
Mm.
foster critical thinking, and enhances retention. They can store the particular incident or a situation for a longer period of time when we are taking storytelling as a teaching method. Moreover, stories also stimulate imagination, empathy, and cultural understanding, and it makes the learning more engaging and impactful. Additionally, we can say storytelling can cater to diverse learning styles and create a collaborative learning environment where students actively participate in discussion and reflection on the narrative content. Overall, it is a powerful tool for educators to communicate the ideas effectively and inspire lifelong learning. Thank you.
Well, it's really good. You did a good job, and you have read on storytelling and its advantages, creativity, empathy, ability to predict. So the nonverbal communication skills, imagination, emotions, they all are incorporated into storytelling. Boring facts can be made interesting through the technique of storytelling, whatever the subject that you teach. Okay. So very good. It was
Yes.
Shakira. Am I right?
Yeah, ma'am. Shakira.
Shakira. Very good.
Yes.
So,
Thank you.
yeah, those two topics only I gave. Now I remember. I'll be sending you the notes later on, but you did a good job, right? And today,
Okay, ma'am.
yeah, good. Keep it up. Both of you did a good job. And today, I want to tell you our topic is lesson planning. So, lesson planning is huge, but we will take component by component. Now, we talk about approaches, methods, some techniques, and then the teachers have to actually use approaches, methods, and techniques in actual teaching and learning. So, yeah, the teachers have to plan lessons. Okay. So our next big topic is that. So lesson planning is huge, but we will uh, take component by component and see um, uh, uh, how we can actually go for lesson planning. Okay. So I'm sharing my document with you. Um, you need to give me 1 second. Okay, give me 1 second. I'm sharing it. I have shared. You can read it for a while. I take 2 minutes from you. Read the definitions of lesson planning. There are 3 definitions. Please read it. Did you read the definitions of lesson planning? Hello? Hello?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So what is told about lesson planning? What is a lesson plan? According to the first definition, a lesson plan is the teacher's detailed description of the course instruction for one class. So when you have a class, you have to do a teaching, you have to write a detailed description of your teaching or instruction. So every detail is put into the lesson plan, right? How I'm going to do my teaching this particular lesson in this particular period, right? How much time is given? What are the objectives to be realized? What are the materials used? What are the methods and techniques that you're going to use? How you're going to assess them? Each and every detail of the 40-minute instruction is described in the lesson plan. Okay? So a daily lesson plan is developed by a teacher to guide class instruction. So teachers are supposed to write daily lesson plans for each and every period that you actually teach. So most of the time, from school to school, the comprehensive, the complexity of lesson plan actually differs. Some schools expect the teachers to write very comprehensive, lengthy lesson plans with everything incorporated into it. But some schools, of course, they actually don't expect the teachers to write very detailed ones, but the main important points in columns like they get you to write. But anyway, writing a lesson plan for each and every lesson is a must now. So because of that, you need to know what are the main components of a lesson plan. It is the detailed description of the teacher's teaching or the instructions for the day. That is the first definition. If you look at the second definition, right? It is actually a systematically organized, sequenced, and presented over a period of time. The lesson, how you're going to present it. What happens first, what happens next, what are you going to do afterwards, like that. The systematic sequence of your lesson during the period. That is what is jotted down in the lesson plan. The sequence of your lesson, the stages of your lesson, as it happens in the order with how much time that you're going to spend and what kind of activities that you're going to actually use. They are all in a sequence that you're going to present in the lesson plan. Sequence means in the order of presentation of the lesson, right? If you look at the third one, it says it is the step-by-step guide that outlines the teacher's objectives for what the students will accomplish that day. Very important. At the end of the lesson, what the students should be able to do. That is what lesson plan is all about. At the end of the period, once you finish your instructions or teaching, what the students will be able to do. They are termed as lesson objectives, right? Lesson objectives, what the students will be able to do, accomplish, right? So they are, a lesson plan is a description of what the students will be able to do at the end of the lesson and how you're going to get them to achieve it, how you're going to get the students to achieve it. So these three definitions of lesson plan, if you take the key ideas, you can formulate your own definition for lesson planning. Am I right? Am I right? Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
So you can actually think of incorporating, it is the detailed description of the teacher's instruction. and it actually um, is a step-by-step guide of what the teacher, how the teacher is going to conduct the lesson. And it is actually the description of the lesson objectives or what the students will be able to accomplish at the end of the teaching and how the teacher is going to actually achieve it. Okay. And if I'm to actually further tell you, they say lesson plan is the bird's eye view of the lesson. What is meant by the bird's eye view of the lesson? Now, bird's eye view means you are actually at a higher plane, the bird, right? And you can see the big picture, panoramic view of what is below. So lesson plan, when a lesson plan is properly written, it gives that bird's eye view of the lesson, everything that is going to happen and how it's going to happen, why it's going to happen, and every detail is incorporated into the lesson plan. The bird's eye view of your lesson is the lesson plan. Okay. So because of that, whether you like it or not, most of the teachers, they don't like writing lesson plans. But if you actually get into the habit of writing lesson plans, you can see how effective it is, and how feasible your lesson is going to be, conducting your lesson be, if you actually plan your lessons ahead. Lesson planning means you're planning your lesson, right? Whether it's writing or not, it is a document, it's the plan. So you're planning your lesson, what you're going to do tomorrow, you're planning it beforehand. So it helps you to actually, it is highly advantageous, lots of advantages. So we are going to look at what are those advantages of planning a lesson then. Is it clear to you, Puta? Can I go to the advantages now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. So let's see the importance of planning lessons. Okay, outcome is that you have lesson plans, but importance of planning a lesson. The first point, can I get one of you to read the first bullet? Can I get one of you to read the first bullet?
It is one step backward, two steps forward approach, although can be difficult to do and requires tons of effort to accomplish at first. It enables you to save much time in the coming years, since the lesson plan that you just made can be employed over and over again, but if updates are necessary, do so though.
Very good. Thank you very much for reading it nicely. So that is one of the main importance or advantages of writing a lesson plan. When you are to write a lesson plan, actually it's extra work for you. Actually, it's not extra work. It is your work you are supposed to do. But you might feel that it is too much. With the workload, it is very difficult. But if your principal or the school administration make it a must that you write lesson plans and show it to the coordinator and get it signed like that, you have to write. I also had to write those days. We didn't like it initially, but once you get into the habit of writing, it is one step backward. Why one step backward? Too much of work for you, right? One step backward. You're kind of hurt. It's too much for you. One step backward. But you're made to do that. You're forced to write. And then you know in the coming years, you don't have to worry much because you have already planned lessons with you. It doesn't mean that you have to use the exact thing. No, if updates are needed, changes to be done, you can do that. But you don't have to write lesson plans all over. So you can use the lesson plans you write with little changes over a long period of time again and again. That is two-step forward approach. One step backward is the difficulty you face right now. But it is two-step forward because you are equipped to face the future challenges in a better way. You understand? You understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
actually it happens. And once you actually get into the practice of writing lesson plans, you master the art of writing lesson plans also. So in the after few months or years, you're not struggling. It's nothing. You can actually quickly do that. That is also one step backward, but two-step forward approach, because it's a future investment. It's a professional development. Okay, right. You go to the second one. Baba, then you go to the second point. It allows you to manage your time, effort, and resources efficiently. That is true, no? Now you have the experience of walking into the classroom with a well-planned lesson. So you have allocated time. The first activity, I'm going to finish it in 10 minutes. The second activity, I'm spending 20 minutes on that. The third activity, it's another 10 minutes. And this is my first activity. These are the materials needed for the second stage. These are the materials for the third stage. Everything that you actually have come prepared with everything. So it allows you to manage your time, maximum use of time. I myself have experienced that. When we are very well planned, when we go walk into the class with a very well planned lesson, students actually have no time to idle, because teacher knows what happens first, what materials to be used first, what happens next, and all these things. Even problems that might arise in the class, they are also anticipated. Sometimes my students might not know this. So they will ask me how to, like, you have anticipated them. So you have ready-made solutions to the problems that might actually arise then and there. That is lesson planning. So it's maximum use of time and efforts and resources. And when you do like that, your students see. There are times, even in adult education, when I'm not prepared and when I'm prepared, no gaps. No, I have all the materials in the folder, I'm opening them, I know what, I give the lesson outline and everything happens. When I can't be prepared, then I struggle locating my this material and that material and all that. It's felt by you. So it's worse when it happens in the schools. The students start idling, they are more demotivated, they are not ready to learn anymore. They have actually being distracted. All these things can happen. But when a teacher walks into the class with very well planned lesson, everything is in place, one after the other, everything happens, and it's actually felt by the teacher and the students, both the parties. That is it. So that is professionalism. So it's worth the efforts. That is what they say. So we come to the third one then. It gives you the bird's eye view of things to be taught and learn every day. So the big picture of it, the bird at a higher level, elevated level, looking below, sees everything. So likewise, the lesson plan well written gives everything about the lesson, gives everything about the lesson. And then you come to the next one. It provides the teacher many ways to keep the teaching process not monotonous. That is what, teacher is not just walk into the classroom and think about what she's going to do. When you write lesson plans, when you plan your lessons, you think about the lesson beforehand. Because of that, you have time, you can reflect on that. What are the interesting activities? You can search internet, you can introduce new activities, you can actually prepare interesting materials. Can think of attention gain strategies. You can think of how to motivate them. All these things are done beforehand. As you are prepared, you can actually spend some time on new things that you can do and make it a very interesting one for the students, and it will not be a boring lesson, monotonous lesson by the teacher. But if you do not plan your lessons, you just walk in and then just typical teacher talk. Teacher goes to the blackboard in front of the class and go on explaining. It won't happen. If the teacher prepares for the lesson, then the teacher can download activities, materials, make it interesting, all these things, can think of new ways of doing. Now, for example, if you want to use flip method, if you want to use jigsaw method, you have to plan your lessons. Otherwise, you won't be able to do them. Just walk into the class and think of doing jigsaw, think of doing flip is not possible. No? So new tech methods, new strategies you can introduce if you plan your lessons. Got it, right? Got it, right? Okay. Then come to the next one. Since it's like a script in movies, lesson plans makes teaching mundane and easy. That is once again a repetition of that. It's like that you have a script. So you know what's happening. It's your script for the lesson, right? Okay. It makes you organized whilst teaching because it's planned. So it's you're an organized person and the students will definitely like your teaching. That is how students actually, now all the teachers are good, but you stand above others if you plan your lessons very well because it's felt by the students and you are confident in the class because you know everything that you are going to do, and your students know there is a flow and no time is wasted. It brings professionalism to your teaching, and that is it. Okay. So lesson plans help you to get rid of problems or avoid them. Normally, when you plan lessons, you think of the anticipated problems also. What kind of problems may arise when I'm to do this lesson? So you anticipate them and find solutions and incorporate them in the lesson plan, right? It gives you a reality check of your everyday performance. That is, now if you are visited by the Ministry of Education, the ISSs and all that, they will ask for these lesson plans. Even school administration will ask for the lesson plans. So it's a proof that you are doing your job. It's a proof of your performance, right? And it improves the habit and attitude of your students or pupils. Definitely they see my teacher is very well prepared. So they see they are very effective as it's a very well planned lesson. And your students are actually ready for your lesson. So that is it. It definitely improves your teaching skills because if you plan something beforehand, you put a lot of thinking into planning. And that means you're improving day by day, right? You're improving your teaching day by day. So it adds to your professionalism. Finally, with lesson plans, you will be able to impart the things need to learn to the best of your abilities. Because it's a very well planned thought beforehand and everything is ready for the lesson. So because of that, you can do your lesson to the best of your ability. That is what you want to do, right? You don't want to just go in front of the class and talk about something and then think. Yeah. So because of that, now we will come to the steps of planning a lesson. That is also very important. Now we have to plan lessons now. What are the steps involved in planning the lesson? පළවෙනි එක තමයි, you have to outline the learning objectives of the lesson. Now suppose today I have to do this lesson. I have to do this part of the syllabus. So you have to definitely think what are the specific objectives of the lesson. මොනවද specific objectives කියලා කියන්නේ? What will my students be able to do at the end of the lesson? First one is outline learning objectives. So this is the lesson I'm supposed to do. So what are the specific objectives to be realized at the end of the lesson? If not, what will my students be able to do at the end of the lesson? I give you an example. Now you're a grade 4 teacher, and in that lesson, environmental studies, you need to talk about the life cycle of the butterfly. That is, the lesson is about life cycle of the butterfly. So by looking at the lesson, that you decide what your students be able to do at the end of the lesson. What will your students be able to do at the end of the lesson? So you have to write lesson objectives. They will be able to name the life cycle of the butterfly. They will be able to define the various stages of the life cycle of the butterfly. Like that, you have to actually put it into what the students be able to do at the end of the lesson. ඒකට අපි කියනවා learning objectives කියලා. ඒක තමයි මම කිව්වේ I'm going to discuss the Bloom's taxonomy. What is it? What is it?
Bloom's
Bloom's
taxonomy.
taxonomy. So once I look at the components of lesson planning, I will go to the first part, writing lesson objectives. So how to write lesson objectives? There are 3 domains: cognitive domain, psychomotor domain, affective domain. So the levels, what the Bloom's taxonomy says about writing learning objectives. That is, we are going to separate it and learn. So let me leave it as it is now. So in lesson planning, the first step that you have to do is you have to outline the learning objectives. So how to outline the learning objectives? We will discuss it in Bloom's taxonomy after the discussion. So after writing the lesson objectives, what will my students be able to do at the end of the lesson? Right? You have to develop the instruction. Develop the instruction means how you're going to teach, right? How you're going to teach. I have narrowed further explain it now that you have learning objectives in order of their importance. Design the specific activities you will use to facilitate learning. Now, I want my students to name the life cycle of the butterfly at the end of the lesson. So for that, you have to prepare activity. You give them an illustration, you get them to watch a video, and by watching the video, you get the students to name the life cycle of the butterfly. That's the activity you do to realize that objective. So to realize each and every objective that you write, what are the activities that you are going to give them? That is the next step, right? Planning the specific learning activities. What will I do to explain the topic? What will I get the students to do to be engaged in the work? What examples? What real life examples? What comparisons, analogies, situations, techniques I'm going to use? Right? And then plan to check students' understanding, whether they have learned it or not, whether they are learning it or not, how you're going to actually see. So you can ask questions, you can give them a small activity like that. Right. So develop a conclusion and a preview. Preview means what they are going to do next time. What they are going to do next time. And create a realistic timeline. For the first activity, how much time is spent. For the second activity, how much time is spent. For the third activity, how much time is spent. That also you have to think of, right? Then look at the last component of lesson plan. What are the components of a lesson plan? If it is a lesson plan, a standardized one, you have to incorporate these things into the lesson plan. Can one of you read the components of a lesson plan that you write? Can one of you read the components of a lesson plan?
Title of the lesson.
Yeah.
Grade or class. Time
Okay.
required to complete the lesson.
Yeah.
Learning outcomes. Learning teaching materials or quality input. Instructional component that describe the sequence of events or steps of the lesson. A summary where teacher leads a discussion and answers questions. And finally, an evaluation component.
Evaluation or assessing whether the students have learned it or not. It's not always a test. It may be an activity that you give in an informal way. Maybe get them to come in front of the class and talk. Maybe get them to do an act out or something very informal or whatever. So you have to incorporate these into your lesson plan. Title of the lesson, grade or the class, time required to it's 40 minutes or 80 minutes, learning outcomes or specific objectives. Then to realize the specific objectives, what teaching learning materials are needed, and then the stages of the lesson, what activity first, what is it? Why? Right. And then you have to actually lead discussions to give the feedback or the summary, and then how to assess your students. That is it. So this is about lesson planning. We discussed what is a lesson plan by looking at definitions and the key areas, importance of a lesson plan, and then how to actually prepare to do a lesson plan. First is the lesson objectives, and then of course is how to develop, whether you're going to use what teaching model, what methods, etc., and then the activities to realize the objectives, and then how to assess the students' understanding and what you're going to do next. That is it. And then we looked at what are the components of a lesson plan. Are you okay?
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah. So now the first part of a lesson plan, what you should do first is what? Writing specific objectives. මොකද writing specific objectives කියලා කියන්නේ පුතා? What the students be able to do at the end of the lesson. මොකද අපි කියන්නේ?
What the
the
student
students be able to do at the
at
end of
the
the
end
lesson.
of the lesson.
ඒක තමයි teacher කෙනෙක් lesson plan එකක lesson එකක් බලලා the first thing that the teacher should decide. This is my lesson today. So by doing this lesson, what I want my students to do at the end of the day, I want my students to write 5 sentences in simple present tense describing daily routine. That is what you want your students to do at the end of the day. If it is science lesson, I want my students to name the water cycle with the definitions of each stage. So you have to first decide on that. It is not haphazard, it is not random. It is based on theory for you to write proper specific objectives of the lessons. That what the students be able to do at the end of the lesson, you have to actually know what Benjamin Bloom's has said about writing objectives, specific objectives. Is it clear to you?
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah. So now I'm going to actually get you to look at writing lesson objectives by getting you to look at Bloom's taxonomy, right? The first step of writing a lesson plan. The first step of writing a lesson plan. Okay. So I'm opening my document. Right. Right. Have I shared it? No, no.
Yeah, ma'am, it's visible.
Madam.
Bloom's taxonomy of learning domains.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Now, if you look at this Bloom's taxonomy of learning domains, we use it to write specific objectives of lessons. So that is the first step of writing lesson plans. So you know this is the part of the syllabus that I have to cover today. And you have to look at the lesson and decide what specific objectives. If not, what will the students be able to do at the end of the lesson? We term it as specific objectives. Okay. So we have to ground it. So writing lesson objectives, specific objectives, it's grounded on Bloom's taxonomy. Bloom's taxonomy of learning domains. So we'll see, according to Benjamin Bloom, right? Any learning and teaching, anything that you teach, right? Through your teaching that you get the students to learn. Through your teaching, you get your students to learn things related to how many domains? 3 domains or 3 areas. How many domains or how many areas?
3.
3. The 3 are, you can read 1, 2, 3. What are they?
Cognitive
Co-
domain, affective
Cognitive
domain,
domain, affective
domain,
domain,
and
and
psychomotor domain.
psychomotor domain. Right. So any teaching you do, the students will be able to learn something related to cognitive domain, something related to affective domain, something related to psychomotor domain. You don't have to think, it's only cognitive, it's only affective, it's only psychomotor. All the 3 domains should be catered to in your teaching. So we'll further see what these domains are. Cognitive domain, another term for cognitive domain is knowledge related. What is it? Knowledge related.
Knowledge related.
You can read it in the area below. Knowledge related. Okay, knowledge related. ඒ වගේම අපි එකට කියන 3H කියන එකේ head related. Head, right? Knowledge or head related. That is cognitive domain. If you take affective domain, it is attitude related. Feelings and emotion area. Attitudes are heart related. 3H waliන් the second H for heart. First cognitive domain, head. Attitudes, if not feelings and emotions, affective domain, it's heart related. The third is psychomotor domain. Psychomotor domain is skill related. එහෙම නැත්නම් අපි කියනවා H එක ගත්තොත් hand කියලා. Head, heart and hand concept. නැත්නම් cognitive, affective, psychomotor domains. If not, knowledge related, attitude related and skills related. Skills කියලා කියන්නේ ability to use body and equipment. Ability to use body and equipment. So whatever the lesson you teach, whatever the subject that you teach, it may be art, it may be maths, it may be English, it may be Sinhala, it may be whatever the subject that you teach, okay? Whatever the lesson you teach, it doesn't matter. The teacher's responsibility is to get the learner to develop cognitive domain, affective domain, and psychomotor domain in each and every lesson. That's the challenge. But most of the time, the teachers look only at the head related, knowledge related, cognitive domain. It is wrong. It is actually absolutely wrong. So you have to think of what skills, what attitudes do they develop with the knowledge that I give them. Is it clear to you?
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah, I will give an example. Now you're an English teacher. So you have a reading passage today. You teach a reading passage. Now you're planning your lesson. The first step is formulating the specific objectives. That means what will the students be able to do at the end of the day? Now Bloom's there are 3 domains. Cognitive, knowledge or head, affective, attitudes or heart, psychomotor, skills or hand. Now it's a reading lesson. The cognitive domain, the students will be able to scan and find information. Students will be able to infer the meaning of unknown words in the context. They are cognitive domain related. Am I right? Knowledge related. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Now, what about affective domain and psychomotor domain? You look at the topic. This topic is about preserving environment, that are looking after pets. Now you can actually talk about how you should look after your pets. You should love them. Animals have animal rights. They are our friends. It's your responsibility to look after them. That kind of attitude should be inculcated in them by the English language teacher who wants the students to develop their reading skill. Reading skill development is cognitive, but the message, it leads to attitudinal change. You have to highlight that as well, right? And then psychomotor domain. So what can you get them to develop their skills? That is the physical abilities and ability to use equipment and all that. So once they finish reading their uh, uh, reading passage on looking after pets, you tell them, get into groups and do a poster on looking after pets. So the students get into groups and they develop a nice poster. There's a catchy phrase, there are drawings, there's creativity. They do actually little pasting and all that. They are actually body involvement is there, right? They paste, they cut, and all these things happen. That is psychomotor or skill development. If not, you get them to actually develop a dialogue and come and role play in front of the class. When they role play, their bodily movements, everything happens. It's psychomotor. So that is how you plan your lessons. It's not only to relate to cognitive domain, but affective and psychomotor domains are also equally important in the 21st century education, where we believe in the 3H concept: head, heart, and hand. Head එක විතරක් develop වුණොත් skills නැතුව, attitudes නැතුව වැඩක් නෑ, useless. Right? They are not contributing to the well-being of the society, mankind. They have lots of knowledge, but they don't have the attitude. They don't have skills. What's the point? So each and every lesson is geared towards the development of all the 3 domains: cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. So writing lesson plans, the first step is formulation of lesson objectives related to the 3 domains. It is something said easier than that. You will actually develop the ability to write specific objectives of the lesson, not overnight. Not overnight at all. You need time. You need to practice it. And Bloom's has a way of getting you to practice it. I will also tell you how to do that. So when you actually, if you are a residential teacher trainee, you have to write 100 lesson plans. 100 lesson plans. So you are writing lesson objectives for 100 lessons. That ability comes to you by getting you to do that. It is developed. But just because that I tell you that you have to write specific objectives related to cognitive, affective, psychomotor, you will never be able to do that. You need to do it and learn. I will show you how to do, and we will do it for 1 or 2 lessons, 3 or 4 lessons. And I get you to do it at home and bring one day to discuss in the class. So you will see, and gradually you will develop. Okay, not overnight. Is it clear to you?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Now this is something said easier than done කියලා කියනවා. හැබැයි now cognitive domain we have to discuss separately. Then affective domain we have to discuss separately. And then psychomotor domain we have to discuss separately. So we'll see. We'll first take the cognitive domain, right? We'll first take cognitive domain. Cognitive, give me another term for cognitive.
Knowledge.
Knowledge, nothing head related. Okay. We are all good at it, giving the subject matter, no? We are all good at it, giving the subject matter to the students. But hereafter, as professionals who knows how to do it, you definitely need to think of the other two domains as well for each and every lesson. Okay. I will show you later on some examples and all that, get you to do some, and we'll discuss it to the best of our uh, way of doing it properly. Cognitive domain, Bloom's කියනවා, involves knowledge and the development of intellectual skills. It includes the recall, recognition of specific facts, name the body parts, right? Label the parts of a plant. They are all cognitive. That is knowledge related, right? And you know, according to Bloom's, there are 6 levels of cognitive development, cognitive domain ability development. How many levels? 6 levels.
6.
Yeah, don't look at the first column. That is the original one. In the original cognitive domain, you have nouns, knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis. But later on, it's revised. Why was it revised? Because specific objectives means what the students be able to do. What the students be able to do at the end of the lesson. So students do something. So because of that, they thought the cognitive domain level should be verbs. Because at the end of the day, this what the students be able to do. So they transform these nouns into verbs. So look at the second column. These are the 6 levels. Cognitive domain, 6 levels of cognitive domain development. We call the bottom 3 lower order thinking abilities. LOT. LOT. In the 5th class also I told you, lower order thinking abilities. LOT is the acronym. What are the 3 levels? Remembering, understanding, and applying. They are LOT, lower order abilities. But if you go to HOT, higher order thinking abilities. HOT abilities or activities are analyzing, evaluating, and creating. Normally, they are overlapping. Because of that, you can decide whether this is LOT or HOT. That is enough. You get my point? Yeah, the bottom 3 levels are overlapping. So remembering, understanding, and applying, they are taken as one by us. That is lower order thinking abilities. Then higher order thinking abilities, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. So let's see what they are by taking one by one. Yeah, what is the first level? Knowledge or remembering. Look at knowledge or remembering. Recall data or information, very superficial level. Very superficial level. Can you read the examples and the key words or the action verbs that you can use to relate to this, the basic level of remembering tasks? Can you read?
Defines, describes, identifies.
No,
knows.
before that, example එක බලන්න. This is the first level of cognitive development. අපි කියනවා remembering. Knowledge කියන එක පස්සේ remembering උනානේ. Knowledge, remembering verb එක. එතකොට මොකක්ද examples දීලා තියෙන්නේ කියවන්න බලන්න. Recite a policy. Quote prices from memory to a customer. Knows the safety rules. Label the parts of a tree. Right? Name 10 body parts. They are all just remembering. Am I right? Nothing much. එහෙම නෙවෙයිද? එහෙම නෙමෙයිද?
Yes.
Yeah. So Bloom's කියනවා, if you are catering to the remembering level, the lowest level of cognitive development, Bloom suggests some action verbs. Why action verbs? අපි specific objectives ලියන්නේ what the students be able to do at the end of the lesson. එහෙමනම් මොනවද කරන්න පුළුවන් කියලා action verb එකකින් ලියන්න ඕනේ. මොනවද action words දීලා තියෙන්නේ for the basic level remembering? Defines, describe, identify, knows. Knows කියන එක වැරදි අතරම. No කියන එක මනින්න බෑ. We will be talking about smart objectives later on. Knows is wrong. Outline, recall, recognize, reproduce, select, state, අපි කියනවා name, label, match. Okay, name, label, match. All these are just remembering, nothing much, right? Okay. If I take you the example of poems. Now your student is a Montessori student, right? Just 4 years or 5 years. Do you want the child to know everything about the poem, or you just get him to by heart it and just recite it? What?
By
It's
heart and
getting
recite.
by heart it and recite it. Sometimes they don't know the meaning also. That is the lowest level. Okay, so you can say name, a label, match. All these things are the basic action verbs that you can use in writing specific objectives, because at the end of the day, students will be able to recite, students will be able to name, students will be able to label. Like that, you have to write an action verb. Smart objectives, we will be discussing it later on, right? Okay. Then we go to the second level of cognitive domain, comprehension. අපි එකට කියනවා understanding කියලා verb එක යනවා. Now, if you take the same poem, now the child knows the meaning of the poem. Because of that, he performs actions. Rain, rain, go away. Come again. He uses the body language, body parts, and mime it. Because he knows the meaning. That is actually the second level of cognitive domain understanding. Can one of you read what is given under comprehension or understanding?
Understand the meaning. Is it, ma'am?
Yeah, please read.
And understand the meaning, translation, interpolation, and interpretation of instructions and problems. State a problem in one's own words.
Words. That means they understand it. That is very simple. Initially, they don't even know the meaning of it. They are just like parrots. That is remembering, right? Then they come to understanding what the meaning of this. It is actually understanding is the verb, second level. So can you go to the second column and read what are the examples and what are the action verbs that you can use in writing the specific objectives related to the second level of cognitive domain? Right.
Yeah. Examples: rewrites the principles of test writing. Explain in one's own words the steps for performing a complex task. Translate an equation into a computer spreadsheet. The keywords being used here is comprehend, converts, defends, distinguishes, estimates, explains, extends, generalize, gives examples, infers, interprets.
Right. Now you can't keep all these words in your mind initially, but I will show you there is help for the novices until you master it. Right? There's help. That is how it happens also. I'm showing you. Right. Now look at this. Can you see Bloom's taxonomy verb wheel? Can you see Bloom's taxonomy verb wheel?
half is visible, ma'am.
Yeah, I have to actually scroll it up and down and show you this from the web. So here you can see, remembering, understanding, applying. What happened? It's not either. No, it's not free. Now you can, no?
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, it's not
I-
there. Yeah, I will find some other. Now you actually, as a novice teacher, when we were in the training college, that is the first thing to do. We had to actually develop our own, we have to make our own action verb wheel, catering to the 6 levels, lower order and higher order. I will actually try to look at another one, which is free. Okay, let's see. A simple one I'm taking, okay? Right, now look at this, So we had actually 6 levels. So we could actually rotate it. And when we want to actually look at lower order, remembering, understanding, and applying, we can select a suitable action verb from the list, right? And if it is higher order, we go to the higher order ones and see which action verb is appropriate there. And we continued to do that for 100 lesson plans. Then we did not have to refer to the Bloom's action verb wheel in writing specific objectives, right? So you also can actually have one on your table when you're writing lesson plans, and you can refer to it, and it will help you to actually develop your ability in writing proper specific objectives using proper action verbs, what the students will be able to do at the end here. Okay. This is I'm showing you because otherwise you might think, how on earth? You can see the new one, using verbs for specific learning outcomes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not big enough. So you can actually have one like that. So then as a novice, it's difficult for you. But you can go to its lower order, knowledge, comprehension, and application. Right. So you can read these words and see what is appropriate in this particular lesson. But the students will be able to do the action verbs. If it is higher order, you can refer to them and select the proper action verb according to the lesson. And then when you continue to do it for some time, formulating specific objectives using proper action verbs from the Bloom's action verb wheel, will master it. Overnight, Nang, it won't happen. You may be a kind of a genius in something, but this won't happen overnight. You need to learn it through your experience. Get it? This is how you can experience it. You have the support. You have to refer to the materials. Are you okay?
Yeah, ma'am.
So now I'm opening the document I was sharing. This is not the one. Okay. Right, this is the one. Right. So we discuss up to 2. Always it's easy if you can look at lot and hot. Lot in one set, hot in another set. Okay. Right. So application. Use a concept in a new situation, or unprompted use of an abstraction applies what was learned in the classroom in a novel situation. For example, if you get your students to read a text on life cycle of the butterfly and do a poster. So they read the life cycle of butterfly, the terms and the definitions, and now they are using it to do a poster. That is only application, nothing much. That is also lower order. But when they do a poster, it's not only knowledge related. They can name the cycle of the butterfly. They can define the stages of the cycle of the butterfly. They are cognitive domain. Doing a poster is psychomotor domain. Got it? Right. Normally, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation, they are higher order hot. Analyze separates materials or concepts into component parts so that its organizational structure may be understood. For example, if you get the same poem to be read by your students, these are higher order. Now the child is in grade 8, grade 9. Now the child is learning a poem not only to recite, not only to know the meaning. Now the child can actually look at phrases, lines. So you ask them, what are the lines that tell you this man is old? What lines tells you this man is sick? Which lines tell you this man has done his responsibilities and job when he was young? Which lines tell you that he has been neglected by his own people? So that is analyzing, breaking the poem into parts. You get them to analyze it and see why you say this man is poor, why you say this man is old, why you say this man is sad and neglected. That is analysis, putting them into small parts. And then synthesis, put two and two together and form the whole thing, big one. So after actually reading a passage, you get the students to write the summary of it. It is synthesis because they have to know the big picture and then get the most important elements and then write a summary. It is synthesis. And then evaluation or creation. Now you get them to read poem on a poor man and then you ask them, right, go home and write your own poem about a person who has done his part when he was young and now being neglected. Or go home and write a kind of a story about a man who is neglected by his own children in old age. That is actually the creation or evaluation. They are higher level. Normally in primary school, you can't actually achieve higher levels. You have to cater to lot only. But when they go to upper grades and all that, you have to cater to the hot activities thinking as well. Is it clear? Lamai?
Yeah, ma'am.
Now it's actually tika complicated, but don't get complicated. Make it very simple. Therunane, cognitive domain, what are the levels? What are lot, what are hot? And you have the Bloom's wheel. I don't want you to know everything about Bloom's wheel right now. As I know, it needs time, right? හැබැයි ඔයගොල්ලන් lesson plans ලියනකොට Bloom's wheel එකක් තියෙන්න ඕනේ table එකේ. How many of y'all have referred to Bloom's wheel before in writing lesson plans? There's no any other shortcut there. That is how you will learn it. So have you written lesson plans before? And have you used Bloom's action verb wheel? Please tell. Silent killers. Please tell. නැත්තම් නෑ කියන්න අප්පා.
Sometimes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. Now hereafter make sure, because you all are going to be qualified people, professionals. So that professionalism you can gain if you do this only. So ඔගොල්ලෝ දන්න ඔගොල්ලෝ lesson plan ලියන්න ඕනේ. Bloom's wheel එකක් හදලා ලස්සනට මේසෙට තියාගෙන when you're planning your lessons, refer to it. Then over the course of time that you will master it. Otherwise, there's no any other way that you can do that. Okay? කටපාඩම් කරලා කවදාවත් එක ඉගෙන ගන්න බෑ. Are you okay, girls and boys here in the class?
Okay, madam.
Right. We'll come to the affective domain, the second one. What are the other terms for the affective domain?
Attitude.
Very good.
And heart.
Heart, feelings and emotions. නේද? feelings නැති emotions නැති කොච්චර දැනුම තියෙන ළමෙක් හැදුවත් වැඩක් තියෙනවද? නෑ. Without proper attitudes, no point in knowledge. නේද? අපි කියනෝනේ nuclear weapons හැදුවෙක් කෙනා. right? මුලින්ම nuclear හදනකොට යාට attitudes තිබුණා නම් එයා bombs හදන්නේ නැති වෙනවා. Because it is wrong to actually destroy nations, humankind, mankind. That proper attitudes තියෙන්නට ඕනේ. එතකොට proper attitudes තියෙන කෙනා ඒක destruction එකට යොදාගන්නේ නැහැ. They always will think of the well-being of living beings, not humankind විතරක් නෙමෙයි. සත්තු ගස් කොළන් හැම දේ ගැනම හිතන්නේ ඒ විදිහටයි. So each and every lesson should cater to this domain as well. Otherwise, we are machines, we are producing machines, we are producing robots without any emotions and feelings. So each and every lesson is geared towards the affective domain development as well. That is the seriousness. හැම lesson එකකදීම හිතන්න ඕනේ කොහොමද මොනවට සම්බන්ධ affective domain එකක්ද develop කරන්න. We can, right? I will show you some sample lesson plans. කරන්නම දෙයක් නැත්තම් කියනවා you put them to work in groups and their willingness to share their knowledge with the others in the group is an attitude itself. අර කෙලින්ම lesson එකකින් ගන්න බැරි වෙලාවට. Okay? So let's see. Affective, attitudes, emotions and feelings, and heart. Very important. Each and every lesson should gear towards the development of attitudes as well. That is your task in writing specific objectives of the lesson, not only cognitive domain. So here also there are levels. What are the levels? Receiving phenomena, responding to phenomena, valuing, organization, internalizing. How many levels then? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In the cognitive domain, there are 6 levels, basically into 2 parts, hot and lot. Here in the affective domain, there are 5 levels. අපි කටපාඩම් කරමු 5 levels මුලින්ම. මොනවාද 5 levels වල first එක? Receiving phenomena, awareness, willingness to do, willingness to know, right? Paying attention to some good attitudes at the receiving level. Now, I will give you my own example. It happened when I was an adult, a mature person, right? So we live in an apartment. So we used to actually throw garbage in one bag only, right? But later on, about 10-15 years when at the back, they said, no, you have to throw your garbage, separate them into 3 bins. So that was at receiving level, right? Garbage should be separated. My attitude towards garbage is at the receiving level. I did not actually accept it with open arms. I actually did not like that idea. I thought it's too much, separating garbage into 3 bins, keeping 3 bins, right? So I was at the receiving level of the attitude of the importance of separating garbage. Then, responding to phenomena. Now, whether I like it or not, garbage will not be taken by them if it is not separated. So I did not have the correct attitude, it should be done, but I'm made to do that. So I separated. The level is responding to phenomena. Whether you like it or not, you will respond. Right? In the school also, that is how the attitudes are developed. First, you introduce the attitude. That is, you have to work in groups and share your knowledge. They will initially not like it. But as the teacher puts them into groups, they are responding to it the second level. Whether they like it or not, they work in groups. Third one, valuing. Now, They did not like doing it. I did not like doing it, but I'm made to do that. Then once I started doing that, I realized, it's all good. It's all good because I don't have to actually throw all the three bins every day. I can keep two bins for 2 or 3 days. Only the food waste is actually thrown every day, taken downstairs every day. And it's actually makes things easier, and it doesn't spoil the pantry, and you started seeing the value of it, doing it. Initially you did not like that. Okay. Likewise, your students also, when you put them into groups, initially they did not like that, but they are working in groups and they start learning, we can share, we can interact, it's fun to be with others, we can learn from others, and all that. My ideas are also valued now. So they start valuing the idea of working with others. That is a third level. Then organization. Organization is now, of course, as you value that attitude, now you get organized, right? You want to actually do it willingly. If not, now even if you don't put them into groups, they might ask, teacher, we will work in groups because it's fun and it's really good and we can do better. They will organize it. So in my case, even if they don't ask me to put separate, I will actually do that because it's very convenient and it's very neat and all that. And then internalizing, that is, now you have learned that attitude, it's inculcated into you and it's part of your personality. Are you okay? Are you okay?
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay.
Can you give me an example of the varied levels of the affective domain: receiving, responding, valuing, organization, and internalizing? As I give you the garbage one, and students put into groups and all that. Can you think of another classroom example of these attitudes? ගොඩාක් attitudes අපි දෙන්නට ඕනේ ළමයින්ට. They are full of emotions and feelings. That is very equally important as getting them to be knowledgeable and skilled. So can you think of another example? You can think of one of your lessons and see what kind of attitudes to be given, and then at varied level how it can be developed. That is your thinking. I want one or two of you to actually come up with an example. Can I give you 1 or 2 minutes? Are you ready to do that? Are you ready to do that? Lamai? Please respond. Are you doing that? If you're doing it, I can give you 1 or 2, 3 minutes. Are you willing to think of an example?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Think of a lesson and then think of the attitude and think of the varied levels. එක දවසෙන් varied levels යන්න බෑ. Maybe the first time it be at the receiving levels. You have to stop there. Okay. Okay. Any example?
Uh, we can teach the energy consumption and saving method when we
Yeah.
plan that
Can you explain it again?
when we plan to do the energy consumption and wastage
Yeah. What
lesson.
is the subject, Puta? It is science.
Science.
Yeah. Okay. Then the topic is energy consumption and minimizing wastage. Am I right?
By teaching this, we can teach them how to stop wasting the energy.
Definitely yes. ඒක කියලා දුන්නේ නැත්තම් වැඩක් නෑ අර lesson එකේ කියලා දීපුවයි. Knowledge related ඒවා is in vain. If you don't get them to actually think like that, I should not waste. I have to minimize the use of it. Sustainable living. We are not supposed to waste it, even if we can afford. That kind of attitude is not given. Your lesson is a flop, even if they get 100 marks for the lesson you taught them at the exam. You're correct there. Okay. So can I, very well done. What's your name?
Okay, madam.
Yeah, very good. Sukaya, very good. You have a little one at home, right?
Yes, ma'am.
How old is he?
It's 4 months.
Baby boy.
Yeah.
Naughty fellow, the.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Then we'll get somebody else also to talk about an example from the class. Yes.
Consumers' contribution to sustainable development, ma'am.
Yeah, first talk about the subject, then talk about the topic, and then what kind of attitude. Can you do it?
Yeah, it is under business studies,
Mm.
sustainability development. How on customers' side we can contribute for the sustainability development by it can be either environmental sustainability development or economic sustainability development or social sustainability development. How consumers can support for it.
Okay. So they also should, as consumers, do the same. That attitude should be inculcated in them. Am I right?
Yeah.
Can you give an example for that such exact
For
thing?
example, in terms of environmental sustainability development, the customers need to use the eco-friendly products.
Definitely, yes. So they also start bringing their lunch in
Lunch
kind
box.
of boxes. Otherwise, they have this kale collar or whatever.
Yeah.
That attitude should be there in them. After teaching all
Yes.
these things, still they overuse polythene, still they overuse plastic, and still they actually do the same thing that is not supposed to be done. අර විභාගයට ඒකක් ගත්තත් වැඩක් නැහැ. That mindset you should have first, the teachers. ඒක emphasize වෙන්න ඕනේ. ඒකට remedial measures ඒක කෙරවෙන විදිහට වැඩ කරන්න ඕනේ. Right? For example, now you talk about good food habits and all that. You talk about eating healthy food and all that, the food pyramid and all that, but you don't do anything to get them to actually eat healthily. No point. So you can actually develop a healthy food meal chart every Monday, what they are going to bring to school and all that. So like that, you have to actually have a plan with them. Then only the attitudes also will be parallelly with the knowledge developed. Very good. The examples are really good. I'm happy. Okay. Now hereafter, you have to think in terms of that. Okay. Lesson plan එක ලියන්න විතරක් නෙමෙයි. Each and every lesson that you get them to develop the attitude. It may be at different levels. It's okay, right? Right. We'll come to the third part. That is actually, this is the psychomotor domain, right? Psychomotor domain. Here, psychomotor domain. Psychomotor domain, some other words are skills or their ability to use equipment and body. If not, අපි කියනවා hand කියලා. එච්චක ගත්තොත්. ඒකෙත් තියෙනවා levels. First one, perception. Second level, set. Third level, guided response. Fourth level, mechanism. The fifth level, complex overt response. Sixth level, adaptation. And then the seventh level is origination. I will get you an example and talk about it, and you don't have to pay word by word attention. Now, suppose you're a dancing teacher. You're teaching them a Varnama, right? You know, Varnama dancing, Varnama. So at the first level of learning the physical activity, the dance, it's psychomotor. They first look at how the teacher performs it. Am I right? Teacher show
Yes,
it
ma'am.
how to do that and the perception. යමක් කරන විදිය බලන් ඉන්නවා. බලාලා ඉගෙන ගන්නවා. Set. Now they are ready to do that. Now they also try to dance the Varnama. Readiness to act. After seeing the teacher, how she's doing that, now they are also doing it. Ready to dance. And then guided response. Because as they start, they will have a lot of mistakes. Their hand kind of movements, their mandia and their expressions, they are all not proper. So teacher guides them, right? Raise your hands like this and keep your body like this. And have your expressions like that. Teacher guides them in the performance. And then mechanism. Now after practicing it with the teacher's guidance, they learn the mechanism of it. They learn the mechanism. If it is a Varnama, I have to have the mandia. If it is a Varnama, I have to have had my hands in this position, my fingers like this, tightly knitted to each other like that. You come to know. I have to have my eyes going with the hand. All these things, now they know the mechanism now, right? That means the science in it, they know. It's not just doing what the teacher does and ask you to do, and they know why it's being done. And then complex overt response. Now they are skillful in their performance. Now they dance like the teacher, very skillful and all that. Sometimes they do the better than the teacher. But later on, you know, adaptation and origination both can be taken together in a way. They actually add something that is in them also to the one and make it a very creative, new, original one. You know that it's not the same thing that the teacher teaches them. Now they add their own actually abilities, capabilities, inborn things, and they make it a very original, beautiful, their unique performance. Right? That is dance. අපි ගත්තොත් එහෙම drama එකක් ගත්තොත්, right? Drama එකක් මුලින්ම ඒගොල්ලෝ බලනවා how the others act, and then they also try to imitate others, and then they learn by from the teacher's voice should be raised, you have to actually walk like this, and you have to use the stage and all that කියලා ඉගෙන ගන්නවා. Then they learn the mechanisms of stage drama, and then you know they are skillfully using it, and they have their own ways of actually now performance, and finally their performance is very unique and original to themselves. It's not the exact thing that the teacher showed them at the outset. That is how the psychomotor domain or skill domain develops. Handwork එකක් වුණත් එහෙමයි. ළමයින්ට පොඩි කාලේ බකට් එකක් හදන්න ඉගෙනුවොත් ඒ විදිහටම හදනවා. ටීචර් ගයිඩ් කරනවා. හැබැයි ලොකු වෙනකොට මොකද කරන්නේ? They have their own creations. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
That is higher levels. That is higher levels. So you have to decide on all the three domains in each and every lesson, irrespective of the subject that you teach. ඒක තමයි teacherගේ task එක in the 21st century, because we are not producing robots, we are not producing machines, we are producing human beings. All the three H's are developed in them, not only knowledge, not only head, but heart and hand. With all the three H's are developed, only that you can be happy, you are giving them the best of education. So in your little ways, in each and every lesson that you teach in the class at the delivery point, it's your responsibility to do that. Got it? Got it, or you did not get that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, very good. So hereafter, even if you don't write lesson plans, I prefer if you can write lesson plans. When it is not a must, you don't do that. But at least take a piece of paper and plan your lesson and first think from this lesson, what are the lesson objectives, specific objectives related to the 3 domains. It will bring about a dramatic change into your teaching and to the students' learning. And this is where the professionalism begins, and nobody can stop you if you are to continue to do that, because your lessons are very well understood, your lessons are very well planned, and you're doing the right thing. Because once the lesson objectives are formulated, the rest of the lesson plan is based on the specific objectives, realization of specific objectives. So the realization of specific objectives after formulating the lesson objectives will be done next day. But we can look at further some examples of, right? Give me a second. Right. Some examples of writing lesson objectives. So I'm sharing another document with you. We will try to look at some examples of lesson objectives further, because it's another 15 minutes. Okay. Right. Look at this. Introduction to writing specific objectives. I'm getting you to look at some examples. Now, cognitive, affective, and psychomotor we looked at. Okay. Now, before looking at these examples, I want to talk to you about another aspect related to writing specific objectives, right? Then we will look at some specific objectives for different lessons. Otherwise, that you will not see, no, but they are written like this. Because of that, they are written like this. These are the examples, Following this session, participants will be able to describe 6 factors that contribute to the increase of global warming. That is a specific objective written. But I have actually put down criteria for writing specific objectives. ඒක නැතුව මේක ලියන්න බෑ. ඒක නිසා we are going to look at the next subtopic of writing specific objectives, right? That is writing smart learning objectives. What is the topic? Writing smart learning objectives or specific objectives. What is the acronym used here, Puta?
Smart.
SMART. So SMART is an acronym. So they stand for some specific features of specific objectives. අපි බලමු මොනවද මේ SMART. What do they stand for කියලා? The S for specific. You can take it down. S for specific. Then M for measurable. A for action bound. R for realistic. T for time bound. So whatever the specific objectives that you write for each and every lesson, you have to make them smart. You have to write smart objectives. Now, forget about your teaching and learning. Even in your life also, you have goals, aims, and objectives. Always the objectives are smart. You have to make it smart, specific, measurable, action bound, realistic, and time bound. Otherwise, those objectives cannot be realized. For example, you want to be a graduate. So specific, I want to be a graduate of, if you're into Bachelor of Education. Measurable, right? Measurable. So you can say, I want to actually be a first class graduate, a second class upper, like that. Action bound. Action bound is that I will be able to get a good job, do better in my teaching and all that. R is realistic. To complete your degree, you need at least 3 years. So you can't be a graduate in 1 year, 6 months. So you have to make it realistic. Time bound. If it is actually a very good objective to be realized, you decide, by 2026, I'm going to be a graduate. So you have set the time as well, right? You have set the time as well. So you have to make any objective goals in life smart. So it applies to the lesson objectives as well. So we are going to look at how we are going to make it smart. S for specific. Specific කියලා කියන්නේ, right? Specific කියලා කියන්නේ what exactly that they will be able to do. I will give you an example. Now you are an English teacher, right? So you want your students to learn a specific grammar. It's about pronouns, right? Now pronouns have 5 forms: subject pronouns, object pronouns, adjectival pronouns, uh, reflexive pronouns, etc. But in this particular grade 6 class, your lesson is on object pronouns. So in your objectives, you don't have to say at the end of the lesson, students will be able to use appropriate pronouns. That is wrong. It's not specific. So you're going to tell at the end of the lesson, students will be able to use object pronouns appropriately. You're going to be very specific. Now, it's a Montessori, it's a grade 3 class. In your English lesson, you're going to actually teach them 6 names of domestic animals, right? So you have to specify, right? You have to be very specific. You want them to name only. හැබැයි ලියන්නත් උගන්වනවා නම් with spellings, you have to say the students will be able to name 6 domestic animals. Students will be able to write 6 names of 6 domestic animals with proper correct spellings. Very specific කියන්න ඕනේ. තේරුණාද නැද්ද? තේරුණාද නැද්ද? What
Yes.
exactly that they will be able to do කියන එක කියන්න. What exactly they will be able to do. Right.
It can be more than one. No?
Yeah, it can be more than one. Definitely. Definitely. For example, the same example, you can first say the students will be able to name 6 domestic animals. Students will be able to write the names of 6 domestic animals with correct spellings. There are 2, am I right? First, they have to name it, then they have to learn how to write them also. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah, if it is a grade science class, you have trees at the topic. So you teach them parts of trees and then functions of trees. So you have to tell, first one එක තමයි, at the end of the lesson, students will be able to name how many parts organ, 6 main parts of a tree. දෙවැනි එකට කියනවා, the students will be able to state 2 functions of each part of the tree. 2 functions of each part of the tree. So there are 2. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Then there's M for measurable. Measurable කියලා කියන්නේ මෙන්න මේකයි. Now, what metrics are you going to use to determine if you meet the goal? දැන් මේක measure කරලා බලන්න එපා මෙයා මේක ඉගෙන ගත්තද නැද්ද කියලා. Measurable වෙන්න ඕනේ. එතකොට අපි කියනවා it's a project that is going to take a few months to complete. Then set some milestones by considering specific tasks to accomplish. ඊට වැඩිය සරල විදියට කිව්වොත් you can make it actually 5 names of the domestic animals. Measurable or not measurable? If you don't specify how many, now you get them to know causes for deforestation. Causes for deforestation. So you do not know how many causes that they are supposed to know. So you're making it measurable by telling the students will be able to state 6 main causes for deforestation. එතකොට it is measurable. නැත්තම් measure කරලා බලන්න බෑ. There can be hundreds of causes for deforestation. Am I right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And achievable. Achievable කියලා කියන්නේ ඇත්තටම එක achievable වලට වැඩිය action bound. අපි ඒකට කියන්නේ මොකද්ද? Action bound. Then it's easier to understand. Both the same. Action bound කියලා කියන්නේ it cannot be edited. Action bound කියලා කියන්නේ students will be able to do this action, perform this action, then you come to know they have learned it. Otherwise, there's no way that you can understand whether they have learned it or not. So you always get them to perform an action. That is why the Bloom's action wheel is also there. Always use an action verb. At the end of the lesson, students will be able to name. Students will be able to label. Students will be able to match. Students will be able to state 5 reasons for deforestation. Students will be able to illustrate the life cycle of the butterfly. Illustrate. ඇඳලා පෙන්වන්න පුළුවන් වෙනවා. අන්න එතකොට there is an action to be performed by the students, then only that you know whether it's achieved or not. Because of that, achievable or action bound, always there's an action that the students are expected to perform. Are you okay?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
The R is for relevant or realistic. R is for relevant or realistic. Now it's a grade 6 class. Can you teach them 100 names of domestic animals?
Cannot.
No, you can't. So it's not realistic. So because of that, always what you're going to get the students to do at the end of the lesson should be realistic. For that, you have to actually tell how many names, how many reasons, how many, or describe what, talk about 10 daily routines. Like that, you have to make it realistic and relevant. Otherwise, there is no end to it. And time bound, always you have to actually tell when they will be able to do that. When they will be able to do that. අපිටම ඔයගොල්ලෝ graduate කෙනෙක් වෙනවා නම් time bound නම් when you are going to be a graduate. ඒක smart objective එකක ලක්ෂණයක්. Likewise, in each and every lesson, when will the students be able to name the parts of the body? So most of the time in lesson plans, you write at the end of the lesson, by the end of the lesson. සමහරු ලියනවා unit එකට, by the end of the unit කියලා. But in schools, it's at the end of the lesson. Got it? Now look
Yes,
at the
ma'am.
examples. The first one is not from school, right? Following this session, maybe like you and I in a lecture, following the lesson, again at the end of the session, I have made it time bound. Participants will be able to describe an action එකක් තියෙනවා. Am I right? Action bound. Describe. යාලා action එකක් තියෙනවා ඒකට කරන්න. They will be able to describe 6 factors. 6 කියපු ගම you are very specific. It is measurable now. It's only 6 and it is reasonable. You are not expecting them to make it 20. That contribute to the increase of global warming. This is how you make your lesson objectives smart. Look at the second one. At the end of the lesson, on a time bound, when they will be able to do that, students will be able to form action එකක් තියෙනවා. ඒකට form කරන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්න. Right? Construct කියන එකයි. Action එකක් තියෙනවා. Students ලට කරන action එකක් තියෙනවා. Simple present passive verb. Simple present passive verb. Sentences ලියන්නේ නැහැ. Passive verb එක හදනවා ඒගොල්ලෝ. එහෙනම් simple present passive verb. It's not all passive. Simple present passive verb. Specific, measurable and reasonable. It's only simple present passive verb. Not all the tenses and all that. Okay. So there are some others as well. We look at another one and finish it off. By the end of the lesson, time bound, students will be able to determine Determine කියලා කියන්නේ තීරණය කරනවා. Action oriented. The relationship between milliliters and cubic centimeters. Liters and cubic centimeters. Liters and cubic meters as units which are used to measure liquid volumes. So specific, measurable and reasonable. Okay. ඒකටම අදාළව තිනවා by the end of the lesson students will be able to solve. අන්න action එකක් තියෙනවා. Solve problems involving units which are used to measure liquid volumes. So this is how we are making specific objectives smart. Can I get one of you to read the next one? I'm tired.
By the end of the lesson,
Okay, continue.
by the end of the lesson, it is time bounded. Students will be able to explain briefly, which is action oriented, the factors that lead drinkable water supply to become a timely requirement. So there we have specific, measurable and reasonable.
Yeah, now the factors that lead drinkable water supply to become a timely requirement, you can actually state the how many factors කියන එක. Then it is more specific and reasonable and measurable. එහෙමත් add කරන්න පුළුවන්. Not always that you can say how many factors, but 3 main factors, 6 main factors like that you can add. So you can read the last one, Putta.
Okay, by the end of the lesson, students will be able to list 3 techniques for better studying that are derived from physical and chemical attributes of the brain.
Right. You can see very good. For it is said derived from physical. For better studying, the derived from 3 techniques. So 3 kila very specific. No? Because of
Yeah.
that, this is how you are making your specific objective smart. එතකොට ඕගොල්ලන් හිතයි අයියෝ කොහොමද මේවා තනියම ලියන්නේ? මේක මාර කට්ටක් නේ. This is not easy. I will show you. You have all the help in the teacher's instructional manual. The only thing is you're not referring to them. You have the Bloom's wheel, you have the textbook, you have the teacher's instructional manual. When you are writing specific objectives of the lesson as the first step in writing lesson plans, you have to refer to those and spend some time and then formulate your specific objectives. That is the expectation, and then it is actually very easy until you master the art of writing specific objectives on your own, right? So we will talk about the rest of the lesson plan next day, okay? With some more examples for the specific objectives as well. Okay, it is actually hard work, lot is there, but it's very important. You come to know all these things, so at least that you will think in terms of these different domains, how I can get them to actually develop attitudes and skills. What's the point in all knowledge? It's a waste and no use, it's destructive, right? And you think of your own children that you don't want them to be actually full of knowledge, head is swollen, but the rest is not there නම් වැඩක් නෑ නේද? ඒක නිසා ඒකම තමයි අනිත් ළමයින්ට, right? That we have to think of, and it's the requirement of the 21st century education. Right, we'll meet next time and hope we are not meeting until 19th, and during that time we have Aurudu and we have Ramazan as well. So the Muslim friends, happy Ramazan.
Thank
For
you very much,
Sinhala and
madam.
Tamil people, happy Sinhala Aurudu and Tamil Aurudu.
Thank you very
Okay.
much, madam.
Eat lot of
Thank you very
sweet
much.
meats, right? And get fat or fatter, right? Okay, see you then. Bye bye.
Bye, madam. Thank you.
Bye bye. Good
Thank you very
night.
much.
Okay, bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye.
Okay.